How dare you point at me? Why are you accusing me of doing that? You're the one that's pointing at me. No, you're the one that's pointing at me. No, you're accusing me of pointing at you. Why is this such a big deal for you? Well, I don't know. Like maybe you couldn't stop pointing at me for no reason. Well, you can't stop pointing at me for no reason. No, you can't stop pointing at me. No, you can't stop pointing at me. You can't stop pointing at me. Hey guys, this is Jason, and today I'm reviewing Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, directed by Kemp, Joaquim dos Santos, and Justin K. Thompson. It is a sequel to the highly beloved and Oscar-winning animated film, and one of my favorite comic book films, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and this film has most of the cast and crew from that film. In this film, Miles is catapulted to another dimension where he encounters a bunch of spider people, all led by Miguel O'Hara, aka the 2099 Spider-Man, voiced by Oscar Isaac. But when the heroes start clashing after a new threat comes into Miles' world, Miles finds himself pitted against the other spider people, and Miles has to redefine what it truly means to be a hero so that he can save the people that he cares about. I haven't been this excited for a Spider-Man film since Spider-Man 2 from 2004. The first Spider-Verse film is an amazing film, no pun intended. It became one of my favorite superhero films of all time. I would even consider it as one of my favorite Spider-Man films, up there with the first two Sam Raimi Spider-Man films. I mean, I like the Tom Holland Spider-Man films. I think they're fun and enjoyable, but for me, I kind of like the Raimi films and the animated films a bit more. So, of course, it was one of my most anticipated films of the rest of the year, and I was hoping that this film would be awesome, at least as good as the first film. And this film really exceeded my expectations. I had a lot of fun with Across the Spider-Verse. I loved the movie. Maybe not quite as much as the first film. I just like the first film just a tad more, which I'll explain more later. What I liked about this film is that it was still able to show how Miles is balancing his everyday life as both being Spider-Man and as Miles Morales. Like, for one, he's trying to be Spider-Man and save New York from thugs and criminals and the new villain of the film called The Spot, while also seeing him try to get his grades right and be with his family on time just to see how he's doing, and you can kind of feel for him throughout the film while he's struggling, and you feel for him more when his parents are suspicious about why he's disappearing a lot, and that's really because he's Spider-Man. He can't tell his parents that, and you can definitely see that kind of struggle and how hard it is for him to try to keep it a secret. What I liked about this film, and possibly the one thing I liked a little bit more than the first film, is actually Gwen Stacy. I liked her a lot more in this film because in the first film she was cool, but you didn't get a whole lot from her in that film. She explained briefly about her origin story, but you really don't get much about her after that. In this film, you do, because this film actually does attempt to flesh her out a bit. You learn more about her backstory and her world where she's from, and once you learn more, you start to feel bad for her throughout the film. For me, she's the one thing in this film I thought was handled better than she was in the first film. The animation here is also an upgrade. It still has that comic book feel like the first film had, while also doing different types of animation like watercolor animation to match the emotion the character is feeling, while also doing other different types of animation. I'm not gonna spoil what other types of animation this movie has, but it does have some pretty cool ways of how it does it throughout the story, as well as using it on one of the coolest characters in the movie, and in my opinion, the best new character in this film, Spider-Punk. He's one of the things in this film that really stood out to me in regards to the animation, which apparently it took the animators 4 years to animate him. Yes, 4 years for one character. because he has different movements and action sequences throughout the film, and it's really cool when he does it. The humor is still very on point like the first film was. I mean, not all the jokes landed, but most of them I thought really landed for the film, and I found myself laughing in a few moments. Now, without giving anything away, let's talk about the spider people and the little Easter eggs and nods throughout the film and how they're handled. For me, I was worried that this film would have too much of that and focus on that a lot more than the story. Because, yeah, adding in little cameos, nods, and Easter eggs from other films is cool, but if your story isn't as interesting as you would want it to be, then you're not making a good movie. You're just making like eye candy for the audience. But all of that is actually in the second half of the film, while the first half still focuses on the main story and Miles' struggle, and the whole Easter egg stuff doesn't overstay its welcome, thank goodness. It just feels more like icing on a cake. And admittedly, some of those nods and Easter eggs and cameos were pretty cool. I mean, I know they don't really relate to the main story, but as a Spider-Man fan myself, I thought they were cool. Now, this movie is 2 hours and 16 minutes, and that is pretty long for an animated film, because most animated films are an hour and 40 minutes, but gratefully this film didn't feel like it was dragging for me. It didn't make me feel bored. I was still interested in the story and what was going on. Like, I didn't have a moment throughout the film where I was thinking to myself, how long is this movie gonna be? Like, I'm starting to feel bored now. Like, I never had a moment when the movie was playing, although admittedly, there may have been a couple of scenes where they did kind of take a little too long to finish. And of course, there's a villain in this film, and this one is called the Spot, a being that can create portals to other places. Like, he'll make one portal on a wall and another portal in another that he can walk through. And this character I thought was one of the weakest part of the films, unfortunately. I didn't think he was a threatening villain. He was more of a comical villain, and most of his humor for me kind of fell flat. And without giving anything away, this film does actually give him potential at being a very threatening villain, but for the most part, he's just a butt of a joke, and his motive for wanting to kill Miles and ruin his life really didn't help either. Now, without giving away heavy spoilers, this film sets up some things that don't fully get resolved, because the makers of this film did confirm that both this film and the third film are going to tie together and have the third film resolve all of those arcs that Across the Spider-Verse set up. Now, this could bother most audience members, or maybe it did since this movie's already out, because this is not a complete story. This is just part one of the whole story, where we're going to get the rest of the part in Beyond the Spider-Verse. And I'm not going to downgrade this movie for that, because I know I'm going to get more of this story in the third film, and I am excited for that film, and I am hoping that that film might make me like this film a lot more. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is a very solid movie. Yes, it has a very weak villain for the most part, and it has some arcs that aren't fully resolved, but still makes up for it with an engaging story, fun characters, incredible animation, good humor, and a finale towards the end that really gets me excited for Beyond the Spider-Verse. If you loved Into the Spider-Verse, then you're gonna have a lot of fun with this one, but don't go into it expecting a complete story, because it's not. It's just part one of the main story, and we're gonna get the rest of the story in the third film. And to be honest, after seeing this movie and seeing how this wraps up, it actually makes me want to see Beyond the Spider-Verse right now. And that is the big plus I can give this movie. I'm going to give Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse an A. In case you're wondering how I feel about this film and Into the Spider-Verse, I kind of like Into the Spider-Verse just a tad more, because That one feels more like a complete story than this film. But again, I'm not going to downgrade this film for this because I am going to give the rest of the story in the third film. So guys, if you have seen Across the Spider-Verse, what did you think about it? Did you think it was as good as Into the Spider-Verse, or did you think this was a big disappointment for you and you were expecting more? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like this review, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss a thing, and it makes my channel grow. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.